Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to show you a super easy way to get more aggression and consistency out of your passive pickups. Now before we jump straight into the video, it's important to understand quickly what the differences in the passive versus active pickups look like and what we're trying to achieve here. Generally with passive pickups, you'll be a lower output pickup, which allows for a more diverse set of tones you can get from super cleans all the way to more high gain tones, especially when paired with the boost pedal. Actives, on the other hand, tend to be a bit more high gain focused pickup as it has some limiting and clipping going on internally, which is used to even out the peaks and will allow you to push a hotter signal into the amp, which means you'll have less peaks and valleys in your playing. This is great for high gain rhythm tones, but sometimes can leave you wishing you had a little bit more dynamic range and a lower output pickup when it comes to tracking clean tones. Luckily with passive pickups, you can pretty easily emulate the high output clipped sound of actives using a clipper and dialing it to taste. In this example here, I just have two pairs of guitars, one with passives and one with actives. This way you can see the differences on the DIs initially and see right off the bat that the actives come in a little bit hotter and a lot more consistent. This is because the waveforms are essentially being cut off inside of the pickup. And now if we zoom in on the waveform itself, if you were to chop a lot of these points, somewhere around the middle and then just make the whole waveform bigger, it's very similar to what we're getting over here, which is pretty much the same exact sounding guitar, but we have an active pickup over here, which all it does is it decreases the dynamic range. So these lower notes are a little bit closer up to these higher notes, whereas on the passives, you'll have these really big dips in volume next to something like a chug, which is gonna be, 5 to 6 times louder than the other note. So now let's hear those back to back as DIs and then through the amp. So as you can tell pretty quickly, with the active pickups, you can hear just about every note consistently and cleanly, and the passives, you are losing a little bit of that note definition, which when it comes to high gain amps, you definitely want to get a little bit of that back, which some people use boost pedals or boost the gain on their amp. And in my opinion, one of the best ways is just to emulate the active pickup with a plugin like a NovaClip or any other clipper you use. And as you can hear, that consistency really does help the distortion really even out the DI versus the passive one. And now let's get to dialing in the clipper on the passive DI real quick, and you'll see just how easy it is to make your passive guitar work great across all scenarios. So that way we've already immediately added some consistency in there, and I'm going to add a little bit of this THD now to try to just thicken up the tone a little bit with some harmonic saturation. This is really nice, and this kind of emulates the distortion side that you might be craving still from the overdrive pedal. Okay, so now that we've got that dialed in, let's quickly listen. I'm going to turn off the amps just so you can hear just what the clipper's doing. And we're going to listen to exactly what is being removed from the sound, just so you guys can make sure that you're not messing up the sound. All you have to do is click this delta, and then you can listen to the removed clipped sound. All those pops and clicks that you're hearing right there is what is being removed from the sound. That is essentially all of those little spikes. Those spikes are what essentially make up the difference in volume on your passive pickup between the loudest and quietest notes. It's not actually changing much of the tone, but being able to cut that out of the amp allows your amp to really focus on the bulk and the meat of the sound rather than having to tame that peak and then having to distort the rest of it as evenly as possible. And then you don't have those super quiet notes that are barely getting distorted. I know we've all messed with an amp sim before, and you know, when you have some of these notes in a run and they just seem to distort half as much as the one before it, that's because you don't have the consistency in there. So I think this is one of the better ways to do it. You can also go with a compressor. It's a little bit harder to dial that. You have to be a little bit more specific because there is some more attack and release settings focused versus something as quick as a clipper. But there's a lot of ways to do this, but I think if you're struggling to get your passive pickups to work, getting the consistency on your DI is really the way to go. And now let's hear the passive pickups versus the active pickups, just so you can hear that we've kind of shrunken that difference down between the two. And now here's the passive pickups turning on and off the clipping while with the rest of the band. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to watch another video on dialing in lead guitar tones from scratch, check out this one over here, and happy songwriting.